Hello, friends. Welcome to today's session, um, where we are discussing divine encounter as requested by Sylvia Odong Kasoga. This is part of our weekly session where we discuss about our oneness with God and how to awaken to our responsibility and our divine nature. And it's a pleasure for me to lead you in discussing this topic. Feel free to interject, those of you who are on Zoom, and those of you following online, you can comment as well from YouTube, and I'll be happy to answer the questions. But also, we can all participate in the discussion as we end the session if you're still on. So, in understanding and discussing divine encounter, we understand that it means, an extraordinary moment where an individual becomes aware of or experiences the presence of God or the divine or the all of all, the Allah, or a higher spiritual power. As here at Ultimate Masters, we discuss the all, the Almighty, the Source, the Father, or God, whatever name you call it, the Supreme Most High Power, in a non-religious way. And we know that everything in the world is God, and God is the all, and the all is God. And we are all, everything we see on this universe is but God in expression. So while we are going to discuss this with the Christian view, uh, being that Sylvia who asked and myself, we from the Christian faith, we shall also look at be referring to several other faiths, but also a general understanding of these words. Yeah. So when we talk about a divine encounter, it is often characterized by profound personal transformation, revelation, or a deep sense of connection to something greater than oneself. Because the understanding of God begins with the understanding that your being and your coming into being is a result of another force of your parents, or even beyond your parents, as they also came from others until the beginning of time. So divine encounters can take many forms, depending on the spiritual tradition, but they often involve experiences of awe, or L, what some of us call L, love, peace, guidance, or transcendence. Um, since here we are learning in attempting to understand some characteristics of divine encounters, one is the revelation of insight. When you get a divine encounter, it often brings profound understanding or clarity about one's purpose, spiritual truth, or the natural existence of things. For example, in the Bible, we see Moses receiving the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai. You can read this in Exodus 19 to 20, in those chapters, or even earlier in Exodus 3:1, where God reveals himself to Moses in the burning bush. But another characteristic is transformational impact. When there is a divine encounter, it usually leads to personal growth or a shift in behavior, priorities, or mindset. Many of us have friends who have changed when they get these divine encounters, or those that we read about. For example, Saul's encounter with Christ on the road to Damascus, which transformed him into Paul, and he went on to write a lot of the Bible, especially Acts and all those letters to the Corinthians, to the Philippians, as you know, went on to do quite great work from being a persecutor. So beyond transformation, we also see divine encounters bring a sense of presence. When there is that divine encounter, a feeling of being in the presence of a holy, sacred, or transcendent power is usually experienced. And this can manifest in inner peace, overwhelming love, or awe-inspiring fear, as explained by so many people who have had these divine encounters. Another characteristic is the unexplained phenomena. for those who have got these divine encounters, sometimes they're accompanied by visions, voices, dreams, or miraculous events. Like we said, for example, the burning bush experienced by Moses in Exodus 3, 3:1, I think, to around 19, whichever way you want to do. But also there is personal connection. It often feels uniquely personal because it's an encounter, um, as the divine is addressing the individual directly. Usually, these encounters are personal and they appeal to the person because the expression of God is in the individual, in the being that cannot be divided any further. I think we shall have a session on um, the words we already talked about, the power of, 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 of the word, but also words, if you understand them, they mean a lot. So if you go into the detail of what individual means, you will understand why many things are happening at the individual level. And as much as we have community, we have societies, we have nations. And from the Bible, like we said, if you look at, for examples of these divine encounters, there are many across all traditions. From the Bible, for example, we see Jesus' baptism when the heavens opened and the Spirit descended, and the dove said, the dove descended, and the Spirit from heaven, we are told, said, "This is my Son in whom I am pleased." You can read that in Matthew 3:16 to 17. We also see this, we have already said in Exodus 3:1, when the burning bush talked to Moses. Then we also see the transfiguration of Jesus when his divine nature was revealed to Peter, James, and John, part of his disciples. You can also read this in Matthew 17:1 to 9. Earlier, if you look at the Old Testament, especially as followed by Judaists, we see that there's when Jacob is wrestling with an angel or God, because part of the expression I mean, this encounter with God is usually through angels. We see Jacob wrestling with an angel of God and receiving a blessing in Genesis 32:22 to 32. You can read that, and we see in 1 Kings 19:12, we also see Elijah hearing the still small voice of God on Mount Horeb. I'm sure we all know that every human being is endowed with this inner voice, the still small voice, if only but we can listen to it, and it usually gives us the intuition, the inner tuition on which we can live a better life that is connected to the universe and all that God has intended for us. In Islam, we are told that the Prophet Muhammad's encounter with angel Gabriel, whom we call Gabriel in Christianity, during the first revelation of the Quran in the cave of Hira, is another example of a divine encounter. In Hinduism, you have read the Bhagavad Gita. We see Arjuna's divine encounter with Krishna, where Krishna reveals his universal form, which in Hinduism they call Vishvarupa. Some of these pronunciations are not easy for me. But we want to see, we said, if you are attempting to understand God, and if everything is God, then you must understand beyond your faith, beyond your religion, because there is more than you, than where you belong. And this, if we can get to a common understanding, then we are closer to understanding our true divinity and God. In Buddhism, we are told that the Siddhartha Gautama's enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, where he realized the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. I'll be happy to lead you a session into this. Is part of another example of divine encounter. While those of you who have read the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu, the Chinese mystic and philosopher, his vision of the Tao or the Tao as the eternal and unnameable source of all existence is a divine revelation that can only come from a higher source. So, of course, in these divine encounters, there are several lessons we can learn. One is humility, realizing our place in the grand scheme of the universe. That they are revelations. If only you can tune in they are things that we get to know in understanding ourselves, understanding others, understanding other nature, that if only we can be humble, we can learn a lot will be revealed to us. We also learn about purpose. We are not just here strolling. These divine encounters help us gain clarity about one's life mission or spiritual calling. And it's very important that for each of us, each one that is manifesting here on this planet now, that you attempt to go within and ask of yourself, of your God or Allah or higher self or Atma, whatever it is you call it, what your purpose is. But it's also these divine encounters help in strengthening faith, where people, both the encounters of others and for the individuals to whom they occur, they strengthening trust in the divine, even amid these challenges, because all this life is filled with several challenges, but all these are passing circumstances, as we have learned from time immemorial. There is also a key lesson of unity, understanding the interconnectedness of all beings. You see from the Bible, bring together like the five key elements: fire, water, soil, of course, air. Look at the burning bush. All these experiences tell us everything in the world is interconnected. And understanding this interconnectedness of all beings. Remember when we discussed the laws of the universe, we said divine oneness is the first and the key law, of course, in addition to divine mind. And these encounters have shown clearly that you study them from all these traditions, that there is unity in this universe and everything is united if only we can understand and see how it will rise and live this life fruitfully for the period that we are here at different times. But key, of course, is also transformation, letting go of limiting beliefs and embracing spiritual growth. Saul, for example, believed what he was doing was right. These people were against the current tradition, the new Christians, and he was a key persecutor. But having got this divine encounter, he was able to change his ways and turn 360 into preaching the new gospel of Jesus, the risen Jesus the Christ. So a divine encounter, whether through prayer, meditation, nature, or spiritual practices, often serves as a pivotal moment in those who get it in the person's journey of awakening and union with the divine. And we said, if you look at these words and what they mean, if you look at the divine, it could be a better way of saying God or Almighty or Allah. But it is really about diving in. Divine comes from diving in. Look at the root code. Because God is within man. God is within everything that we see. And that ability to see and notice is the power unto itself. And it's granted by grace, by mercy of that power, which controls everything and is aware. Like we have said before, think beyond the usual. When a baby is born, the baby knows how to eat, has not been told by someone. You can take milk, can breathe, can cry. All these, there is a lot that is already inherent that comes to just be revealed. When a baby starts to walk, nobody tells the baby walk. When a baby starts to sit, even talking, there are things that come naturally. They're already pre-existing. It's why we are beings, beings. We shall have some sessions, of course, discuss further on some of these principles. But for now, as we look at encounters with God from this introduction, in the Bible especially, they provide profound lessons about God's nature and our relationship with Him and the transformation that such encounters bring. And their key lessons, like we said, one, we can look at God's holiness. And again, we said the holy, if you look at it in your local language, many of you, while there is the religious understanding, holiness is really about our centralness, our oneness, the purity of being before we spread into different, beings and as well as items that we see in nature. there is that original place of being, which is we talk about holiness. So this divine encounter has revealed God's holiness. For instance, Moses at the burning bush in Exodus 3:1-6 teaches that the reverence and awe we must have in his presence. If you look at Isaiah's vision in the temple, as we talked about in Isaiah 6:1-8, it highlights this stark contrast between God's purity and human sinfulness. Every time we get off from, we said sin means failure to hit the mark. Every time we think we are something else other than God, we sin. Every time we do something against others or against other things, we sin because we miss that realization that we are one with everything and we are one with the source, and we are but just a part of that being, of that wholeness expressing itself in different versions. The other key lesson, of course, is God's call and purpose. We already intimated about this. There are many encounters demonstrate that God calls individuals to fulfill a divine purpose. All the people we see, prophets and the higher beings, all founders of these people have had divine encounters, and they express these, and they are able to fulfill their purpose first of giving light, giving more understanding to people, preaching the gospel, preaching whatever it is that they preach, or giving information about God, or giving medicine, whatever it is. But it is divine encounters help a lot in calling, making people realize their call and to live their purpose, but also to help others also to live that purpose. For instance, in the Bible, we see God's appearance to Gideon in Judges 6:11-24, where God equips and empowers those he calls, even if they feel unworthy. If we are not able to have these encounters, many people wouldn't know that they have this level of capacity. Just like some of us also, it is by God's grace that we are able to read, understand some of these principles at the level at which we are able to understand it, and beyond one book, one spiritual book or tradition. We also talked about transformation through divine presence. Encounters with God often lead to inner transformation. Like I said already, Jacob wrestling with God in Genesis 32:22-23 changes him into Israel, or the pure presence of God, signifying a shift in identity and destiny. Just like Paul's meeting of Jesus on the road to Damascus, as explained in Acts 9:1-19, turned the persecutor into a passionate apostle. So these encounters transform, and many of us, we are in situations in our life where we need transformation. We need to change things that are pertaining in our life. And it's extremely important that we seek for God's divine intervention, for an encounter with the divine, so that we can transform towards the life that we want, that we need. Beyond transformation, God's, this divine encounters also bring forth God's covenant and faithfulness, as these encounters remind us of God's promises. For example, Abraham meeting with God, as explained in Genesis 15, illustrates that God establishes covenants and remains faithful even when fulfillment seems impossible. As we face challenges in this earthly, in this physical world. Sometimes we do not keep to this knowledge, to the knowing of and dependence on God, on the mighty, on the Father, on the Almighty, on the Most High God. We tend to think everything depends on our own individual power or on our own limitations, and then we end up sinning. Also, one of the key lessons is God's love and mercy, which is ever available to us. The encounter of Jesus with individuals like the Samaritan woman, as explained in John 4:1-26, and Zacchaeus in Luke 19:1-10, reveal God's boundless love and willingness to extend grace to the marginalized and sinful, and those who are lost. Like we sing, I was lost, but now I am found. Without these encounters, without these divine encounters, it would be hard for people to remember. And again, we're saying, mind these words. Remember means you were once together, you were dismembered. Then you are remembering, you are putting back the parts together. You and God and others being one. Okay, another key lesson is empowerment for mission. Encounters with God usually reveal, lead to commissioning. Many of we said like the apostles, the prophets, first get revelation, get these encounters before they proceed to their mission, as well as empowering others. For example, the disciples' experience at Pentecost in Acts 2, when they received the Holy Spirit, demonstrates how God empowers his people with the Holy Spirit to carry out his mission. We need to be reminded, but also be re-empowered. That's why we need the counselor, the Holy Spirit, always to give us this divine connection, divine encounter, so that we can live to our true potential, to our true being of beings that are one with God, beings with the purpose of coming to have dominion on this earth, so that what is done in heaven is also done on earth. Of course, we also see God's accessibility as another key lesson. Encounters with God show that he is not distant, but desires intimacy with humanity, with us. And we can see this from Jesus' ministry, particularly his declaration that anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. If you look at this is in John 14:9, underscores the accessibility of God through Christ. And we said Christ is that the one who is, Jesus was one of the Christ. There are several Christs, in as much as many Christians want to believe Jesus was the only Christ. He's called Jesus the Christ. Christ means one who is aware of their oneness with God, of their oneness with the Almighty, or their oneness with the Father. He said, I and the Father are one, and whoever sees the Father has seen me. It is this knowledge that even Paul did say that we need to grow to, that we learn from Jesus, who did not find it robbery to being a son of God, to live a life where he knew he was one with the Father, because everything is the Father is the source expressing in this life. And whatever challenges we are finding, whatever we are going through, we have to tune back to the source, to the one who started it all, and know that it is always well if only we can tune in for divine guidance, for divine intervention, so that we can have encounters that help us get back on track, to have assurance that our Father, who is in heaven, is in charge of everything on earth. But we have to trust and keep faith in that Father, in that source. Okay, another key lesson is God's need for obedience. You know, encounters with God often come with instructions. If you look at Jonah's story in Jonah 1 to 4, it teaches us that the importance of obedience, even God's plans, sometimes seem contrary to our plans. That's why even in the prayer that Jesus taught us, we clearly said it's God's will to be done, because God started it. God put everything and everyone on this world. It's very important to know God's will so that it is what is being done, not just our desires. It's also very important that we tune our desires to the will of God. And this needs continuous seeking, and divine encounters help to bring us back to this kind of purpose-driven life. Another key lesson is, of course, preparation for trials. Encounters with God can also prepare individuals for challenges ahead. For example, Elijah's meeting with God at Mount Horeb, as is shown in 1 Kings 19, 9 to 18, renewed his strength during a period of despair. There are challenges, there are many things going on for the good of the universe, and some periods can be bumpy and challenging, and these encounters can help to prepare us for those times so that we are ready to surmount those challenges and to rise above them, as many of them are temporary. It's our being only that is permanent. And number 10, lastly, among the lessons that I prepared, is God's desire for relationship. So above all these things, these lessons we are saying, we see that these encounters reveal that God seeks a deep personal relationship with his children, with us. If you look in Genesis 3:8, Adam and Eve's fellowship with God in Eden, it reflects his original intent for humanity, to have people who trust and believe in the source, in the Father, and then do everything else according to the trust that has been awarded to us. And we see that each encounter, each divine encounter invites believers to respond in faith worship, and alignment with God's will, teaching us that divine encounters are transformative and meant to draw us closer to the Almighty. Okay, so we're saying that in looking at these divine encounters from different perspectives of different spiritual traditions, we see that these encounters are central to many of the world's leading faiths, each reflecting unique understanding of God, ultimately creating reality based on these encounters, including, of course, understanding or what we call reality or universal consciousness. And I have also summarized some key lessons from encounters with the divine, with the divine across several spiritual traditions. I will begin with Judaism. It was the older religion in terms of those who understand the Bible, the monolithic religions. If you look at the Tanakh, the Holy Book, and the Kabbalah, there are several lessons you can understand from there. In Judaism, for example, encounters with God emphasize his sovereignty, covenants, and the importance of righteousness. If you look at Abraham's call in Genesis 12, it teaches faith and obedience. Moses on the Mount Sinai, we said in Exodus 19:20, it reveals God's laws and his desire for a holy people, a people that are united with him. Holy means one, one united. In the Kabbalah, the mystical Judaism it emphasizes direct encounters with God. Especially we see these encounters with the Ein Sof or infinite light, the Sifrod or attributes of God, teach lessons about the journey to unity with God, self-purification, and transcending physical reality. This life we live on earth, it sort of tests our being and our holiness, and we have to keep getting these encounters to bring us back to source, to bring us back to alignment with the Father, with the Almighty. And this is what we're talking about here in the Kabbalah, the mystic part of the Torah of the Judaists. And a key takeaway here is that encounters involve intimacy with the divine through low meditation and deep search for spiritual understanding. Every human being, spiritual means before the physical. What happens before the physical? What was there really before you were born, before you were being, before something is, what brings it into being? Understanding that is key in understanding our purpose, but also our true being. And this usually we seek in meditation and prayer, of course. In Islam, there's also several lessons from encounters, because we see encounters in Islam also emphasize encounters with God in Islam emphasize submission, because Islam has a lot to do with submission and divine mercy. You see Prophet Muhammad's revelation in 610 during the night of power, what they call Laylat al-Qadar. Muhammad receives the Quranic verses signifying God's guidance for all humanity. There's the Sufis who are Islamic mystics. For them, they believe that direct mystical experiences with God, often described as annihilation of the ego or fana, and union with the divine, can teach us a lot of humility, love, and universal compassion. All religions or all spiritual leaders, spiritual beings get encounters with the divine to reveal some parts of the divine. And that's why for us, we are past religions. We know that each religion has a truth or a part of the Father that it's attempting to communicate, and nothing is outside of the Father. There is only but one power, which is the power of the Father, the power of God, the power of Allah, and it's being expressed in different ways. And there are many commonalities if only people can come to oneness and understand each other. In Hinduism, which is the much older religion than Judaism, than Christianity, we see several lessons from the divine encounters. Encounters with the divine in Hinduism often focus on self-realization and recognition of Atman, or the soul. as one with Brahman, or the ultimate reality. In the Bhagavad Gita, which is like the Bible of the Hinduism, we see the Krishna-Arjuna dialogue. Krishna reveals his divine form. They said they call it Vishwarupa, teaching Arjuna that surrender to the divine leads to liberation or moksha. And this is the key message if you look even at the Bible. Jesus teaches us that we have to trust the Father, the source who is in heaven, and ask for our daily bread, ask for everything that we need, and it will come to pass if only we can ask with full trust, knowing that the Father cannot deny us anything. In same Hinduism, we see Ramayana, and within the Ramayana and the Upanishads, divine encounters often highlight Dharma, what they call Dharma or righteousness, karma, and the eternal nature of the soul. Saints in Hinduism like Sri Ramakrishna emphasize ecstatic experiences of God as love, often through devotion, which they call bhakti or meditation, dhyana, which can lead to very good experiences, sometimes called kundalini, as they believe. And we see that even in Hinduism, these encounters lead to self-realization, liberation, and recognition of unity with the divine. In Buddhism, which is even also much, much older than the Christianity and Judaism and Islam that we used to hear, we see that while Buddhism is often non-theistic, encounters with the transcendent, because we see like before everything is, the divine is present. With it's what we call the transcendent, are framed as awakening or enlightenment, which is called nirvana in Buddhism. So we see that the Buddha's enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, which I already talked about. So Siddhartha Gautama transcends suffering through deep meditation and perceives the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, which I said I will certainly have a session on. That this revelation, the divine encounter, led to the revelation to the Buddha on the whole beliefs and the things that they follow. About tuning into the divine through meditation, through yoga. And we see this also in Mahayana tradition, where bodhisattvas like Avalokiteshvara represent compassionate divine encounters, guiding others towards liberation. We are called to, understanding that these encounters are moments of deep clarity and insight, leading to liberation from suffering and the relation of ultimate truth, which is the key tenet of Buddhism. That we are here for an experience, and we shouldn't be taken by the earthly experience. We are here to realize our true being, our true nature as beings of God, as beings of the infinite. And the fleeting experiences that we get should not take us from, our path and our true being, which is undisturbed peace and oneness with the divine. In Taoism, as explained in the Tao Te Ching, which was written by Lao Tzu, we see many lessons of encounters. Taoism, as you know, teaches that encounters with the Tao or the way are subtle and transformative. There are many things that we know within. I usually tell people, if you look at love, for example, the way you love your mother, the way you love your uncle, the way you love your sister, your spouse is not the same, and you can't write it or explain it. It cannot be expressed in a scientific form, but you know it. You know it's a different kind of love, just like it is different from how you love objects. So we are called to tune into these subtle understandings. In Lao Tzu's teachings, the Tao is the source of all existence, or the way, that pre-existing power that does not force anything. And aligning with that power involves stillness, simplicity, and harmony with nature, as actually is taught in Buddhism and Hinduism, that until we return to that quietness, until we return, even as taught by Jesus in Matthew 6:6, where he tells us to go within in our secret room and in secret pray to our Father, who hears in secret, so that all our prayers can be answered. We have got to return to that stillness, to that being within, so that we can tune to God and have these divine encounters. The Taoist mystics experience the divine as an ineffable flow, emphasizing non-attachment, humility, and spontaneity. There is an understanding that God is always communicating. If only we can go into quietness, into surrender, into flow, things will be revealed to us. And these divine encounters are always ever existing. If only we can tune in and be able to encounter them, especially in what we witness as intuition or intuition. The key takeaway in Taoism, of course, is that encounters teach us to surrender to the natural order of things, aligning with the effortless flow of the universe as directed by the Tao, or the way, or which we call the Almighty, the beginner and the ender of all things, the ultimate power of the universe. In Buddhism, Buddhism-inspired practices and in Kabbalah, which are sort of the same, we see these teachings converging in their mystical emphasis on enlightenment and union with the infinite, with the all of all. For example, the practice of they call it Hitbodedut, or Jewish meditation. It shares similarities with Buddhist mindfulness, teaching direct encounters with the divine through contemplation and inner silence. Even as, for example, when I go to the Catholic Church, after you listen to any preaching or any word, you are encouraged to contemplate, to go within and eat or feed on that word, so that it can become one with you. You can get a much more personal, deeper understanding with it. And this is what we are looking at. So in all these common practices, there are common threads that we see across these different practices. One is unity and transcendence, whether it's God, Tao, or Brahman, or Nirvana. These encounters lead to awareness of the interconnectedness of all things. We see transformation, these divine encounters profoundly change individuals, leading to compassion, surrender, and enlightenment. We see humility and reverence across all faiths. Experiencing the divine cultivates humility, gratitude, and awe. We see mystical insight as direct encounters bypass intellectual knowledge, offering experiential understanding of ultimate truth. Of course, we also see calls to action. Most of the things we see that do this, God requires this of us, God reveals them to others. These divine encounters often inspire service, justice, or alignment with one's higher purpose. Okay, beyond this, beyond what is written in books, beyond what is taught, it is our role here at Ultimate Masters to ensure that we bring people to the newer understanding, to the current way. We are called to live childhood, while we can be children in trusting and all, but we are called to understanding, to grow towards wisdom, and to understand that all these texts that we read have esoteric meanings, have mystical meanings. And I am taking the liberty to take you through esoteric meanings of divine encounters. So these encounters with God, from an historic perspective, delve into symbolic, mystical, and universal truth that transcend the literal interpretation often found in scripture or tradition. These meanings are deeply spiritual and focus on transformative, universal, archetypical experiences. Remember the archetypes of Carl Jung, of the divine. And here are some key esoteric interpretations. One is the revelation of inner divinity, that beyond all these, looking at whether Muslim, Christian, Hindu, Judaist, there is a revelation of inner divinity. There is inner divinity within you. So encounters with God symbolize the realization that the divine exists within us. Esoterically, esoteric is the opposite of exoteric, like the inner meaning. God represents the higher self, the eternal spark of divinity within every soul. For example, if you look at Moses burning bush in Exodus 3, as represents an awakening of the divine spark within the individual, where the fire symbolizes divine inspiration that does not consume, but transforms you as an individual. So everything you see in the Bible is happening within you as a human being. These are symbolic Actually, even Jesus did say it's all allegory. It's all allegory. Paul taught about the same. So the voice of God often symbolizes the inner voice of truth or conscience within. So we are called to tune in within so that we can listen to that inner voice, so that the encounter is a call to recognize our own divine nature and align our lives with that truth. We are divine, but we have to go within. We have to dive in. We have to remove all these distractions of the world and listen to the inner voice, and we shall get all this truth. The second takeaway, of course, in the esoteric understanding is the union of spirit and matter. In esoteric traditions, an encounter with God reflects the union of spirit, which is the divine essence, with matter, which is the humanity or physical things that we see. And these experiences bridge the gap between physical and metaphysical, revealing that the material world is imbued with divine presence. What we see has a source, just like us, we have a source. For example, Jacob's ladder, as explained in Genesis 28:12, symbolizes the connection between heaven and earth, reflecting the soul's ascent towards the unity with the divine. And for those who are bold enough, this is what this relates to in terms of the physical body and your vertebra, the 33 vertebra within your body. And the key lesson here is that this is a reminder that the divine permeates all things, and that spiritual enlightenment involves harmonizing physical and spiritual aspects of life. We have to come to this union, the union of spirit and matter, to know that everything we see in physical form results from spirit, from power that is unseen, and that every power that is unseen must end in something that is seen. So we say mastery, or mastery, us who are seeking mastery, we are seeking to this kind of understanding, this level of understanding and being, where we know that the way we think, the way we trust our being, first of all, our source should guide our thinking and our feelings and our intentions, so that we can manifest, we can come to see physical things that are true to our intentions, to our call, to our purpose, and live a life that is meaningful, not just for ourselves, but a life of service, a life of surrender to all the powers that be. Okay, 3 is a journey of transformation. All these encounters, divine encounters, to us the need to encounter. Esoterically, encounters with God mark pivotal points of transformation and spiritual initiation. The individual often dies to the older self and is reborn into a higher state of consciousness. When we get these encounters, there's what they call the old man. The old man in you dies and you get a new way of looking at things. If you look at Paul's experience on the road to Damascus in Acts 9:1-19, like you said, symbolizes the destruction of the ego and the awakening of the Christ consciousness, of the one that knows their oneness with God. And the whole Bible, all the books, including the Bible, is a story about your personal life and how you can change, and the different kinds of experiences that you have in growing towards your self-realization, knowing you're a being of God, a being that is one with God, and living to that Christ consciousness, which is anointing, reaching the level of being anointed to know your oneness with God. So these encounters are thresholds where the soul evolves to, its true being, shedding limitations and embracing its divine potential. Because, like Jesus said, I and the Father are one. We also are called to live in this way, knowing that we are one with the Father, we are one with the source, and we can live to our true potential. But also we should not be taken by the physical beings, because we are in this world, but not of this world. Okay, the other one is the archetype of divine guide. God often appears as a guide or a teacher or a liberator in these esoteric interpretations. This reflects the archetype of divine guidance present within us, often represented in dreams, visions, or intuition, like we said, inner intuition. Now, if we listen, when we go in or we are quiet, like even the Bible says, be still and know I am God. When you are still, you can get this divine encounter. The power can come to the fore, the power that is within you. For example, uh, in the Bhagavad Gita for the Hinduists, we see Krishna's dialogue with Arjuna as the higher self guiding the lower self towards clarity, courage, and ultimate liberation. Because the moment you know that your true being is beyond physicality, your true is what doesn't change. What is, was, and will continue to be is is a spiritual, is an unseen power. And we see that these encounters symbolize the inner guidance available when we seek truth and align with higher wisdom, which is only achievable from, of course, the divine and awakening that. So, course 5 is awakening to oneness. We already said in mysticism, encountering God often is an experience of oneness with all creation, revealing the interconnectedness of all things. We said the first law of the universe is divine oneness. This aligns with the mystical principle that God is all and the all is God. Nothing is not God. And the biggest thief in this world especially we are living, is this duality, thinking there is God and there is something else. There is God and there is Satan. You hear people live their life fighting satanic power, and you wonder where all power belongs to God. But God has granted this to us and to other beings, to other existences to express. And if only we can keep tuned to the higher power, the most high, we can circumvent whatever we see as opposition or challenging forces. For example, Jesus' statement that I and the Father are one in John 10:30 is esoterically understood as the realization of unity with Source. And we are called all to live to this reality. If you can know that you and the Father are one, you and the Source, the divine, are one, then you cannot live in the kind of intimidation and fear that many people live with. So the encounter teaches that separation is an illusion, and the ultimate truth is found in unity with the Father, unity with the divine. Number 6, these encounters with the divine are a symbol of the soul's journey. We see that encounters with God often mirror the soul's spiritual journey. The divine is both the destination and the companion on the path, symbolizing the unfolding of divine purpose within life. For example, if you look at the Israelites' journey through the wilderness towards the promised land in Exodus, it represents the soul's pilgrimage from ignorance to enlightenment. These stories are not to be taken literally. We tell people the creator and the created and the creating are one. There's nothing separate from the other. The one who is creating, the process of creating, and the one which is created are all one. It's all one being. And the key lesson here is that these divine encounters reveal the sacredness of the journey itself and the presence of the divine every step of the way. God is always existing and everything is God, is that divine. 7 is God as light and consciousness. Esoterically, God is often represented as pure light, wisdom, or consciousness. Even Jesus said he is the light. God created light first. Let there be light in Genesis for those who believe in the Bible. Encountering with God's vision of light, let's say Moses' face glowing after Sinai or Jesus' transfiguration, all symbolize enlightenment. There is some light involved and the elevation of consciousness. This light transcends the duality of the physical world, revealing the unity of the divine. In our lesson, when we did the session on light, we said light is about clarity, bringing things to their trueness, beyond these algorithms, the allegory used in the Bible, to get clear understanding that we are God in expression. We are all spark of the divine. Everything in the world is spark of the divine, and everything is related and is one. And if we can keep that trust and petition or pray to that divineness towards what we want, knowing that we are one with it, then we shall but achieve. We can only but achieve it if we can maintain that oneness and that knowledge. Okay, and we said that these divine encounters teach us that enlightenment is the realization of divine consciousness within oneself. If you can be conscious of that divinity within you, that you are connected to something holy, you have a holy power within you, that is pre everything else, is pre-existing, then we are much higher on our path towards being one with the divine, but also expressing that divinity, giving glory to God, giving a great reflection to the Almighty that is responsible for our being here in this physical form. Okay, number 8 is the divine mystery of the void. Esoteric traditions often speak of God as the unmanifest. We said in our sessions on manifestation, and we had 2 sessions on manifestation, we said that everything is first unmanifest and then it's manifested. When we see it, it does not mean it's when it's starting. It's already there. It's always there in the spirit, in the unseen form. And then it manifests in the physical. Because there is an infinite void. Everything is already existing in a way that cannot seen, in a way that is not seen. And the source of all creation and ultimate mystery is the void, is some people call the darkness. We are told darkness is bad, but God actually resides in the darkness. From there, that light comes to appear on the darkness so that things can be seen as they are in their trueness. So encounters with God, such as Elijah's encounter with the still small voice that we said in 1 Kings 19:12, reflect the profound silence and mystery at the heart of existence. It's why most of these spiritual traditions are teaching you to go within, to meditate, to go within yourself, to go in your secret room and listen to God, listen to the still small voice. God will speak to you. God is speaking to people all the time. If only they can listen, if only we can listen. So these encounters, or divine encounter, invites us into deep surrender, humility, and trust in the ineffable nature of the divine, whom we can only find within, if we refer to within ourselves, when we have given out all worries and cares of the world. Number 9, divine feminine and masculine energies. Esoterically, these divine encounters may represent the balancing of divine masculine, which is the active, creative, protective power of God, and the divine feminine, which is the intuitive, nurturing, receptive power of God or energy that is existent within us. For example, in the Kabbalah, we already said the Sephirot of the tree of life represents these energies as path to encountering God. In the Tao, in Taoism, it represents the balance of the yin, the feminine, and the yang, the masculine. You see, there are different powers at work. Something must meet something. That's what I'm saying, and encounters are important. A female must meet a male for creation to take place. So even that process of making another human is a divine encounter. A seed must encounter given power in the soil in order to bring forth other seeds. So this divine encounter always happening, different powers of God meeting together in order to bring forth new life, to bring forth continuity, to bring forth transformation. And we learn that this encounter calls for inner harmony and the integration of duality. We have to go beyond the dualities. You cannot think that you are separate from soil where every plant you eat comes from, or that the seed, how is the seed able to communicate to the soil once you drop it in? There is a pre-existing power that we only have to give into, and all that we seek will be revealed as. Lastly, number 10, of course, we talk about infinite expansion. We see that in these encounters with God, they often reveal an infinite potential, symbolizing the boundless creativity and love of the divine. For example, the vision of the New Jerusalem in Revelation 21 reflects the soul's ultimate expansion into divine perfection. If humans can master their soul and know that they are unlimited beings, and they can live in this trueness of understanding their oneness with God, and live in that truth, and then they will be in this New Jerusalem. These divine encounters remind us that our spiritual journey is one of constant growth and expansion towards God's infinite reality, because all is God in expansion. So in essence, the esoteric meaning of the inner meaning of encountering God is a transformative journey into the depth of our being. And we said being is being in you, awakening us to the truth of who we are, which is the divine. We are the divine. So if you encounter ourselves, encountering the divine is encountering ourselves and our interconnectedness to the infinite power of the Almighty, of which we are part of. And these encounters are not merely moments, but initiations into a higher state of consciousness, a higher state of understanding and being. And we are saying that these esoteric meaning of encounters with God hold profound spiritual truth, and applying these insights practically can deepen our spiritual practice and enrich, our understanding of God. I think I will stop here. If you need me to, uh, you know, take you through some practical steps on how we can apply this divine connection and increase chances of divine um, connection, of divine encounters, I could do that in another session. Oh, I see this one saying do it. Okay. So I will do this quickly. So one way we can practically apply this divine oneness is to recognize our inner divinity. Encounters with God symbolize the realization of divine spark within each of us. And one practical way to do it is to do a daily practice of sacred affirmation. We can daily affirm that I am a vessel of the divine light. The divine resides within me. Find a way you can affirm this daily, if you can. To affirm that you are one with the divine, and the divine light resides within you, and the divine is within you, and you are an expression of the divine. Okay, and we can use, of course, this helps us towards self-perception, into a soul-based awareness. You can, of course, reflect and write in a journal, those who do journal, to explore divine qualities like love, wisdom, and power as it's manifesting through you. But ideally, we encourage meditation. We also are going to be doing guided meditation sessions so that we can continue to go within and understand this much better. One other way is embodying the spirit matter union, like we said, the mindful living, and because these encounters reveal that the material and the spiritual worlds are not separate but interconnected. So one way to do it is through mindful living, and I do encourage you to find God in the ordinary. Seek divine presence in nature, work, and in relationships. You can integrate body-based practices like yoga, tai chi, qigong, the traditional dances that we do in our different cultures, especially here in Uganda, or dance to harmonize spirit and matter. These help ground spirituality and in the physical. If you follow the traditions, many traditions are aimed at this kind of harmony, harmonizing the physical and the spiritual, so that we can live more truly. Okay, the other is embracing transformation, is what is called shadow work, which was greatly explained by Carl Jung, the Australian psychologist. We can explore and release aspects of the self that no longer serve our spiritual evolution. I want you to take time when you can, sit down, breathe. We have done breathing exercises before, but go in and ask yourself, what is it in your life that is no longer serving you, that is no longer helping you to grow, that is no longer helping you to know your power, your connection to the unseen? Because remember, we said all things that are visible came from those that are not visible. So if you're not able to appear to be powerful within the invisible state, then you cannot be powerful in the visible. And this is the kind of slavery many of you are living. You only wait for physical things. You are living on manifest things, not tapping into your inner power of the invisible in order to control or to bring into being the visible that you desire. So this is a good exercise you can do daily, weekly. Reflect on things that you can improve in your life, things that are no longer serving you, leave them. I will avoid examples because many of us are at different stages of our life, but find those things that you can let go so that you can transition from your current life to a new life. You can renew your life into a better version of yourself. Because remember, we said in metaphysics and in quantum physics, we know there are different versions of you. You have the opportunity always to live another version, to pick a better version of yourself. If only you can do it, can reach that level of consciousness and know it, understand it, and always pick a better version of yourself. And the Father is always welcoming and willing to give you that opportunity to live the life that you want, because actually you're expressing uh, that very divine power, that very divine source power. Okay, the other is listening to inner guidance. Listening to inner guidance, we always encourage breath work, deep listening. Sit down every day. Look for ways to meditate. There are different ways. We usually don't want to focus on techniques, but look, keep quiet and try to understand yourself. Understand the world. Walk in nature. Look at a flower and try to understand it. Try to speak to it, and you will see how you can attune to everything that is, all the power that is existing in everything. And if you go within, listen to yourself, you will hear that still small voice that they talk about. It's not magical. Of course, everything in life is magical. The fact that you're able to breathe, you're able to talk, where is this voice coming from when you speak? Everything is magical. But it's available to everyone because we are all expressions of the divine. Okay. I think I will stop there. I will stop there. I can do another session for this in terms of practical application. Practical applications to help us to, uh, you know, increase our chances of divine encounters. If there are people who are interested in, you can tell me in the comments. I'll be happy to lead you through these sessions. But above all, really, it's awakening to our true divinity, our oneness with God, knowing that we are one with the Father, and living to that truly. And as I conclude, I want you to pray for yourself as I pray for you and pray for myself, that the Lord indeed will meet you, will encounter you, and do a mighty work in you and with you. Our Father, teach us, Lord, to declutter our life. Remove in us as many of the usual worldly cares, Lord, so we are open to encounters with you. Grant unto us, Lord, the grace to remember to go within as often and listen within with intent, so we can encounter your guiding voice and light, so we are guided towards living in righteousness. As Jesus taught us in Matthew 6:6, may we be inspired to commit time to encounter you by leaning in, going within in our closet, so we can talk with you, we can meet you, for we acknowledge that going in the closet, meeting you in secret, equals open reward to us. We know and affirm that you, the Almighty, our Father, is a rewarder of those who diligently seek you. Therefore, we come with a renewed commitment, with renewed understanding, with renewed wisdom, that we shall come within as often as we can. We shall listen so that we can be guided, we can encounter you. We come to you, our Father, that we may tune to you the most high frequency in stillness and encounter your abiding love, peace, and joy, so that our life can be full, guided by your light. Thank you, Father, that you have heard me. Thank you all. Are there any questions, comments? Questions or comments? Okay, we can continue the discussion.